In this video, I'm gonna break down the most common phrases that are causing sales resistance over the phone. And the worst part is you probably don't know you're even doing it. And stay to the very end, guys, because I think you're gonna really enjoy number 12. With that being said, guys, my name is Richard Mugica, and we own a sales agency called OneCallClosers.com. And this year alone, guys, we are projected to do over $55 million in high-ticket sales, selling for some of the biggest influencers on the planet. We've sold for guys like Tony Robbins, Dean Graciosi, Bedros Keuilian, Onyx Signal, Robbie Blanchard, and that's just to name a few. And if you guys haven't already, down below, you can join the Closers Network. It's absolutely free, guys. And inside we have courses and programs and everything you need to master high ticket sales. Links in the description. With that being said, guys, let's get started with number 1. In a high ticket sales call, what you want to try to do is never use the word why, right? Hey, why do you want to do this, John? Hey, why are you looking for that information, John? Turn your why into what. Why causes sales resistance? What relieves sales resistance? Let me show you how this works. Instead of saying, hey, John, why are you looking for that information? I could say, hey, John, what specific information are you looking for right now? You see how that works, guys? Instead of saying why, which makes somebody defensive, what says, hey, sales resistance goes down. Number 2, guys, instead of triggering a yes, try to trigger a no. Getting a yes from somebody causes sales resistance because nobody likes to say yes, but everybody likes to say no because they're in control. So instead of going something like, hey, John, would you like to move forward today? Why not flip it around so John can give you a no? And let me show you how this works. You'd be like, hey, John, would you be opposed to, getting started today? And then John might be like, oh, I'm not like opposed to it, right? So you can trigger a no response to get more yeses. You try this in your calls, it works, and you're gonna really enjoy it. Number 3, in a high ticket sales call, oftentimes what I hear closers say is like, do you have any questions about that? Or, hey, Steve, do you have any questions for me right now? And what that does, guys, is it makes people think too much. They feel like, oh man, I should have questions, but I don't have questions, and it can cause sales resistance. A better phrase is, what specific questions do you have for me? Hey, you know what, Steve? What specific questions do you have for me, right? That way they can recall questions automatically. You're not asking them, do you? You're saying, no, I know you have questions, Steve. It's just, what specific questions do you have? Try that, guys, it works. Number 4, this is a big one. You're gonna turn statements into questions. Every time you are talking as a sales professional, as somebody that is a high ticket closer, that can cause sales resistance because when you're talking, nobody believes you, but the prospect always believes themselves. So instead of telling the prospect something, turn it into a question. So let me show you how it works. Instead of saying, hey, you know what, John? It sounds like right now, if you got into this program, you would start making a little bit more money in your business and it would probably also free up your time, right? That's a statement. I'd rather turn that into a question. Be like, hey, you know what, John? Correct me if I'm wrong, but do you think this would help you generate a little bit more income inside your business and also remove you from the day-to-day operations to free up your time a little bit? See, instead of telling John what I want him to experience, I want to ask John so he can tell me. That lowers sales resistance and it makes you entitled rapport. Number 5, guys, never say the word cheap over the phone, right? Let me show you how this works. Instead of saying, hey, you know what, John, a lot of people say our product's actually a lot cheaper than the competition. That's a horrible phrase, guys, because it devalues your product and it raises sales resistance. They're like, I don't want a cheap product. Instead, use the word more affordable, right? So you could say, hey, you know what, John, a lot of people say that our product is not only better, but it's more affordable in the long run. Do you see how that works, guys? Cheap makes it seem like, I don't know if I want this, raises sales resistance. You want to use affordable instead of cheap. Number 6, guys, when you are trying to give a contrasting statement in a high ticket sales call, try to stay away from the word but, right? So it's like, hey, John, this can help you, but X, Y, and Z. Because every time you add the word but in a high ticket sales call, guys, it negates everything you said before. See, if I say, hey, you know what, Mark, that was a really good job, man. You did a great presentation, but you could have done X, Y, and Z. See, Mark doesn't care what I said before that. He just cares about the but. So when you're in a high ticket sales call, you want to try to use the word and. Let me show you how this works. You say, hey, John, you know what? You did a great job in that presentation. And you know what, John? You could have also probably added this and it would have even increased the likelihood the customer would have bought. You see that? I didn't say but, I said and. If you want to give a contrasting point of view, use the word however. So you can say, hey, John, you know what? It sounds like you did a really good job, man. You had a great tonality on that call. However, right? However, and then boom, boom, boom. That right there, guys, not only does it lower sales resistance, it increases your rapport over the phone. Number 8, guys, is turn I can't into something else. So instead of saying, on the phone or, increasing sales resistance by saying, hey, John, you know what? We can't do this. You're going to phrase it like this. You're going to be like, hey, you know what, John? I don't know if we'll be able to do that, but what we can do is X, Y, and Z. So it's not like, hey, John, we can't do this. It's like, hey, John, we typically don't do that, John, but what we can do is X, Y, and Z. That does not lower your rapport with the prospect, and it doesn't increase your sales resistance. Number 9, try to stay away from, hey, no problem, right? Oh, no problem, Mark. What we can do is, because when you say no problem, what you're inferring is that there is a problem to begin with, right? So we want to stay away from no problem at all. Instead, replace it with certainly or absolutely. Hey, absolutely, Bob. What we can do is X, Y, and Z. Or, hey, certainly, Bob. What we can do is X, Y, and Z. Use that. It decreases sales resistance and keeps you in tighter rapport with the prospect. Number 10, guys. When over the phone and speaking to a prospect, never try to use the word I'm sorry or the phrase I'm sorry. Right? I'm sorry puts you in a beta position over the phone. What I'd much rather have you say is I thank you or I appreciate your understanding, right? Instead of sorry, eliminate that. That's negative. How do we make it into a positive? So just say, hey, you know what, John? Thank you for that, right? Or say, hey, you know what, John? I appreciate your understanding. That keeps you in tighter rapport with the prospect, and it also does not raise sales resistance. Try to stay away from the phrase, believe me, right? Oh, hey, believe me, Mark, like we can do X. Or, hey, believe me, John, we can do Y. Stay away from believe me, guys, because it just comes off like they can't believe you, right? They're like, well, this guy's saying believe me, I probably shouldn't believe him. Instead, just show proof of what you're trying to explain. Instead of having somebody to believe you and using the words, show a testimonial, show proof, and that'll keep you away from sales resistance. Number 12, guys. Stay away from the phrase, I can't give you that information. There's gonna be times in a sales call when you're like, hey, you know what, man, like, it'd be hard for me to do that, John. However, what I can do, right? Stay away from, I can't give you that information. Turn it into a positive. Hey, you know what, Steve? It would be really hard for me to do that. However, what I can do is X. Go from a negative into a positive to stay away from sales resistance. And last but not least, guys, number 13. Instead of saying, hey, this offer is only available for a limited time, you give a reason for that statement, and then you keep in tight rapport with the prospect using tonality. So let me show you how this works, right? Instead of saying, oh, hey, John, this is just available for a limited amount of time, he's gonna be like, well, that's like sales stuff, right? You give him a reason for that. Be like, hey, you know what, John, what we didn't realize, man, is like creating this product. It's very, unique in the marketplace, and we're getting tons of results. And so the problem is we just can't bring on everybody into the program, because if we were to do that, it would lower our standards as a company, and we just don't want to do that. So it's going to be available for a limited time until we fill up these spots. However, boom, right, guys? You see how that works? I'm giving John a reason for saying the phrase. And as soon as you give somebody a reason, it lowers sales resistance. It gives meaning behind it. So they don't think like, oh, this guy's just a high pressure salesperson, right? Try that, guys. It really works. And there you have it, 14 statements that you want to stay away from as a closer that's going to increase your sales resistance. Your goal, guys, is number 1, to create safety over the call. Hope that helps. And with that being said, guys, if you like this type of content, make sure you subscribe and like it. That shows the algorithm like, dude, this guy has some good stuff. I want to hear more of that. And of course, if you haven't joined the Closers Network already, the link is down below. It's completely free, and we'll see you inside. Rich out. Peace.